What's up, everybody? Welcome to Philly with John Marks on PHLY, as always brought to you by Bet Parks and Central City Toyota. As we're live on a Monday morning, shout out to everybody watching there on YouTube live every morning at 8 a.m. Or, of course, you can watch whenever the hell you want because it's YouTube. That's the way it goes. Good morning to all of our podcast listeners, or good afternoon. Again, we're available on audio podcast. Just search Philly with John Marks wherever you find your podcasts. As Tyler Zulli is in the building this morning and joining us all show long, co-hosting today from Broad Street Hockey. But he's not just a hockey guy. I first knew him as a sports talk radio host at WIP, but now, of course, he's holding down the fort on Broad Street Hockey. Mr. Bill Matz joins us live from his home studio. Bill?
Johnny Marks, good morning to you. I like how you still tag me from Broad Street Hockey. I appreciate that.
Of course. Well, I mean, listen, if I needed a hockey expert on the show, I'd go to you. I don't need a hockey expert just yet. But later on in the show, Block C of the show, we will get a Flyers update. Yes. And a Phillies update. And I want to know why. The burning question this morning for me is, why can't Wawa design a cup? And Dunkin' Donuts is the same way, that doesn't light on fire if you put it in the microwave. It says it explicitly on there, do not microwave, and it says it for good reason, because I've done it before. It starts burning underneath and like on the sides, and you can smell it. It's like you're taking a piece of wood and you're lighting it on the stove because you can't find a lighter to light a candle. That's what it smells like if you microwave Wawa coffee. So now I have ice cold coffee that I want the rest of, but there's nothing here that I can actually transfer it into to warm it up, or nothing that I'm willing to do that with.
John, there are mugs. There are mugs somewhere in that office.
Yeah.
I know, because I've broken one before.
Have you drank out of one?
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
sometimes you wash them, sometimes you don't, you know.
All right, Bill, I need to tell you something right off the rip here. John has told me before he would rather drink his coffee out of his shoe than drink out of those mugs.
Anything touching that kitchen, I just kind of, even anything in the fridge kind of just gets tainted, Bill.
We got the dishwasher like, what, a month ago? It's all good to go now.
I've always been a little bit funny with dishes and plates and forks and knives and mugs that aren't in my own house. So here's a weird example of me, and then we'll talk about sports. That if I go to a party, and let's say that the vegetable dip or the chips and dip have been out for 45 minutes, no shot I'm touching it. If it's been exposed, then it's likely that someone's hand or fingers or stuff has been touched, and I wouldn't be able to handle it. I know some people that they'll wipe their butt and not wash their hands and go out and they'll grab chips. So they're the people that scare me.
What?
Huh?
Who are these people that that would do this?
Do you not pay attention to people in public bathrooms?
All right,
bro, this is a me problem. This isn't a you problem. I don't wish this on my worst enemy. When I go to the bathroom, I'm keeping track of not even just like random people. I'm like, is that person going to wash their hands? They just exited the stall. Nope, they're not. And then they open the door and they leave. And it's like, okay, he's just wiping his ass. Now he's out in the store. He can do anything. Anyway, yes.
That's fair, John. I before my illustrious sports talk radio career, I worked at a lot of restaurants, and I worked at a Pizza Hut, a pizza place. It was Pizza Hut. I can just say
I love Pizza Hut.
And we did a buffet in the afternoon. 20 minutes. If the pizza is out there for 20 minutes, you had to pull it and replace it.
That was the rule, or that was your personal?
That was the rule of all Pizza Huts.
Fresh pizza. All right, Bill, let's talk about the story that everybody's talking about. John Cena has turned heel in the WWE.
That's really all that matters right now in all of sports and entertainment, John. They didn't mention it on the Oscars last night. I was a little confused by that. But that's really the only thing I care about at this point.
That was story number 2, the Oscars. Your thoughts on the winners and everything else. All right, so this is something we talked about late last week. And Stephen A. Smith, and he's kind of sneaky about it, because he was talking about Paul George, and at the end of it, he's like, "Oh, Magic Johnson, he's minority owner for Josh Harris and Daryl Morey's job. Josh Harris not happy that that about the Joel Embiid contract. He insisted we had to sign him. Daryl Morey could be in trouble and blah, blah, blah. So he followed that up with, this is what he said right here. So this was on Countdown. Was this Saturday, Tyler, or was this Friday night? So this was definitely after what he said earlier in the week on a Thursday. So he follows it up where he brings up the whole Daryl Morey, Josh Harris, Magic Johnson, Joel Embiid thing all over again. Here it is.
There are rumors that owner Josh Harris was very reluctant to sign Joel Embiid to this extension. And Daryl Morey was the one who said, we got to do it. If that's the truth, Daryl Morey is in a world of trouble. And I would remind everybody, Josh Harris doesn't only own an NBA team. He owns an NFL team. Why do I bring that up? Who's his partner? Who's one of his minority owners? Just somebody that happens to be a 5-time champion and the greatest point guard in the history of basketball. What you think? All he's doing is sitting there talking to him about the Commanders. You trying to tell me Josh Harris, a billionaire who purchased an NFL franchise for over $6 billion, has Magic Johnson sitting next to him, and they're going to ask him a question about basketball? Josh Harris has asked me about basketball. So there's no way he has Magic Johnson next to him and ain't asking him.
Oh, Stephen A. is good. The biggest ego as anybody you'll see out there.
Got to throw in, he's asked me, obviously.
Yep.
The idea of Josh Harris talking about the Sixers is very funny. Sure. Yeah, I guess maybe he's asking Magic Johnson. Why not?
Well, see, here's, and it's pretty clear that Stephen A. is having conversations with Magic Johnson about this specific issue. And it's pretty clear to me that Josh Harris is mad as hell that if he questioned, hey, why are we signing this right now? And Daryl Morey says, no, we have to do it right now. And he says, okay, you're running my basketball operations. And now this is the biggest fiasco with this injury. And now the money that he's owed over the course of the rest of his contract. So it's pretty clear. And I believe that Daryl Morey, that his job is in jeopardy. Can we put, Tyler, there was go figure, he's positive on Joel Embiid and the 76ers. But the 76er guy right there, 76er one or something, can you put his comment up there? So he says, as always, Philly media and fans going overboard. Why would this be the last season for Embiid in a season of many injuries to many players? Can we act like a smart sports community for once? Stop garbage sports talk. All right, 76ers one. Here's my rebut to that. Is that Shams on Saturday comes out with pretty clearly word from Joel Embiid's camp regarding the whole injury thing. The whole thing was bizarre. It was like the 76ers were pushing him to play, and Embiid's out there kind of flopping and floundering around, and he looks terrible. And it's clear that he's not healthy, and it's clear that he has no confidence in his knee. It's like, what are you guys doing? You're trying to make a push to make the playoffs. Well, nobody outside of you cares about making the playoffs. We want a draft pick. We know this team's not good enough, right? So here's why Embiid would be gone is what does the organization think of Joel Embiid? Because it's pretty clear Embiid's not happy with Daryl Morey and how the Sixers are handling it. Let's hear from Shams. This is on, I believe, NBA Countdown on ESPN. And he breaks it. It's like, hey, Embiid had to go directly to the owner about this knee situation. Here it is.
Malika, this all came to a head over the last couple of weeks. Specifically, when I'm told Joel Embiid went directly to 76ers owner Josh Harris about the state of his knee and about where the realization he's at with what's in the best interest of him, the organization, as far as a potential shutdown. Because remember, Josh Harris owes Joel Embiid up to $300 million over the next 5 seasons. So the backdrop to all this is that over the last month, we've seen fundamental differences between Joel Embiid and the 76ers as far as Embiid believing that he needs a different treatment approach for this versus the 76ers feeling you play on it, get in better condition, and you could continue on this year. This has been a situation the 76ers have been dealing with all season, and they've managed the swelling in multiple different ways, including injections monthly, just to get him on the court. But here they are in lockstep. This is all about getting Joel Embiid back on the court in the best sustainable way.
Oh yeah, they're in lockstep. Embiid went directly to the owner because he wasn't happy with the way that the team was handling the injury. But they're in lockstep with everything, Bill.
John, I got to go back to that comment. Like, why would this be it? Because he turns 31 in a week or two, and if we're going to be smart sports fans, what 31-year-old gets healthier? Like, that's just You could be in your physical prime and you just start to decline. This guy has never once been healthy in his entire life. His entire NBA career, he's never been healthy. What's he going to get healthy now? Of course, this is it. We'll probably have to limp through this because he's owned like 250, 300 million over the next few years. So it's not like he's just going to up and retire and give up that money. But this is it. This is it in terms of the championship window, Embiid's greatness, all of it, because he's never going to be healthy. His back, knees, and feet were always a ticking time bomb. And here we are. It's gone off.
Yeah, what you're telling me, a 7'2" guy with a chronic knee condition is not going to get healthier.
Like this isn't like a conspiracy theory. This is common sense. If he's ever healthy and dominant again, it will be a miracle.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because this is clearly this is Embiid's side coming out and saying this. Now, here's the question, because there's something else they said in that cut, and you've heard a couple times now, which is being in better shape to help manage the injuries, which I think is completely fair from the 76ers perspective. They're saying, like, hey, listen, like, you went and played the Olympics, that's fine, but if you come back from the Olympics and you take a break after that and you're out of shape and now you're not healthy for camp and now you're not ready to go to the beginning of the season, how about you put your personal fitness, you put yourself and say, hey, if I'm going to be healthy, I got to be in the best shape possible. And if he's not doing that, to me, it feels like Daryl Morey and the Sixers front office, maybe even Nick Nurse, because there's so much that goes on behind the scenes from them, from Embiid's camp trying to manage the injury and what's being said about the injury and everything else. I'm fatigued by it. You don't think the Sixers are fatigued? If this guy's coming in out of shape and then it's like, oh, well, you know, my knee hurts. Yeah, well, no crap, you're 30 pounds overweight. Like, how about you come in shape and you take your profession more seriously? So that's probably their perspective. But you wonder what the owner thinks. Because if Josh Harris is already thinking like, hey, I didn't want to sign Embiid, what the hell's Daryl Morey doing? Is he siding with Joel Embiid in this? Because it does look pretty crappy how the Sixers have handled this situation. But if the Sixers are saying like, hey, if you're not going to come in shape, then you're going to play through it. I don't know, man. Like, does he really need surgery? Like, what is going on behind the scenes here? It's just, the whole thing is bizarre. Go figure, it's the 76ers.
That's just the way this organization's kind of been for years. And of course he's going to side with the player because he owes the player like $500 million. So that's what it's going to be. And you can say goodbye to Daryl Morey at some point. And if it really was Morey pushing for the extension early, hard to blame him. Hard to blame Josh Harris for going, well, that didn't work. Like, this is a results-based business. Whether it was the right thing to do or not, it didn't work. That's just the way it goes.
This portion of the show brought to you by Glad Hair Restoration, gladhairmm.com, 610-980-4000. All right, so here, ultimately here, and I hate talking about the Sixers and I hate talking about Joel Embiid because it's always this. It's the crap. It is. It's the crap. But here's why for the commenter on YouTube, and just it's fun, and it actually adds to the show when you watch the show live and you get involved in our chat because it gives counterpoints. It gives different perspectives as far as different than me and you and Tyler. But like, here's the reason why he would be back next year. As you mentioned, Bill, right now he's owed $248 million over the next 4 years, which could go to 300 in a scenario that I don't have in front of me, right? But I'll take Shams' word for it. Who the hell's trading for him? Now, Joel Embiid may try to force the issue now. Like, if Josh Harris is like, look, get in shape, like, what are you talking about? And they kind of push him out and be like, no, because that could happen right now where the Sixers are just like, hey, Joe, screw you, right? Like, and he has to leave. Who's picking up a contract? He's owed in 28, 29. He's owed almost $70 million. So what team not only going to trade for him, but what are you getting back in return? Are the Sixers willing to add by subtract by just getting rid of Embiid? I don't think Daryl Morey is. I just don't know what you do from here that works. Like you had said, Bill, it's over. The championship window's over. It's over. And it's going to be a mess for years.
No, that's done and over with. Like, maybe just a team that wants a guy to take a chance, roll the dice, a team that can attract free agents, something, but that's kind of us. But I don't know what you do. I don't know how you get out of this. You can't trade it. It's the options are very, very limited. I guess it's just back to what the strategy with Embiid has always been. Cross your fingers. That's it. That's all you can do.
Cross your fingers. You hope that, you hope that he's able to get himself to where, and think about what we're talking about here. And I'd said this in the beginning of the season. Any Sixers fan that thinks that by him not playing back-to-backs, his knee is miraculously going to be fine, and he's going to be fresh in the playoffs, and he's not going to look like the player that is laboring from playing a full season, you're nuts. Like, best case scenario is that you're able to manage it. He plays 50 games during the regular season, and he's able to play in the playoffs. Not be 100%. This is a chronic knee injury that he's had 2 surgeries on so far, and now he wants another surgery on it. Or they're talking about all these crazy things they're going to try to do to it. Man, I'm so exhausted by it. I really, really am. All right, so here's the question. Is Embiid a 76er bill to start next season?
I don't see any way he's not. Unless he just up and retires. I don't see any way that you're able to get out from under this massive contract extension.
Is Daryl Morey the general manager of the 76ers or the president of the Sixers, whatever his title is?
That's more complicated just because of how much I think Josh Harris does or doesn't care about what's going on with the Sixers. But having to dole out this incredible amount of money to a player who, like you said, best case scenario is 50 games and hope to get him into the playoffs. That could be enough. It might be. This is probably it for Daryl Morey. I don't see how you come back from this when it's the player going over his head to the owner and the owner having to sign these checks to that player who doesn't play. He's going to blame somebody. Josh Harris is. It's going to be Daryl Morey.
And remember Embiid, remember they leaked the story about Embiid, how he's always late and everything else, and it came out, and then they had to address it in the locker room, and no one actually said that's not true. And Embiid was saying that he was looking for the snitch, which to me was very clearly put out there by the organization to try to motivate him. Like, that's where things went wrong. Because remember, he didn't play after that for a long time, and it was for personal reasons. He was pissed, man. He was pouting. I also think he's going through some kind of some depression stuff right here, which is a real thing, man. He's not in a good spot. He's openly talked about how tough this is, being injured and not being able to get healthy from it. One point that Tyler brings up here, and it's a good one. We had Keith Pompey on last week, and he said that, like, okay, let's say the Sixers want to get rid of Daryl Morey, all right? They want to fire him. And I know Josh Harris is a billionaire. Morey just got extended. He's probably making $15 million a year in that neighborhood, right? So you're going to fire Daryl Morey. You're going to have to pay him out, and then you're going to bring in, whether it's Myers or somebody else, you're going to have to pay him in the same neighborhood unless you're just letting Elton Brand take over for a while. Is Josh Harris going to pay, say, $30 million for the next few years to have a GM of a team with a big man that has a busted knee, and it's going to be a total mess? Maybe. I don't know. It's going to be tough.
It's a really, really convoluted situation. There are no easy answers for this Sixers team, and it's not exactly the most dedicated owner to begin with. So we'll see where that all goes. But I don't see how you can come back with Embiid and Morey at this point once it comes out that the player went over his head to the owner. I don't see how you can have them coexist at that point.
I agree. Tyler Zulli. Joel Embiid, is he back as a 76er next year?
Yeah, I believe that he is. I don't think that there's a lot of movement availability currently, right? Because first off, you're matching money. Second of all, you're talking about what's your return, because I think their mindset probably still, even at this point with a lot of injuries that have piled up and this whole situation that's gone down, I think their mindset still is, we want a return that's valuable to this team. And even if it's not 100% what you believe Joel Embiid's value is, there's probably a number where they go, all right, we need to get to 70% of what we think his return on investment is before we were to make a move. And then you're talking about a limited pool of teams that are willing to take on the contract, plus make that kind of move, plus the return that the Sixers want. It's a lot of moving parts that I just don't think that right. I think Bill used the word convoluted, and I think that that's a really good word to use because it feels like that's where we're at this point. Is I'm just not sure everything meshes together in a way that all parties involved.
They're not going to, like, you can make the case that the only reason you get rid of them is just to start fresh. You're not going to get a great return. You're going to get future first-round draft picks and maybe a pick swap or some crap like that. And then you're going to get matching salary. So you may get a good player or a above-average league player. You may not. And are the Sixers willing to say, hey, here's a former MVP. Here's one of the best players in our franchise's history, a two-time scoring champ. Hey, we're going to take, I don't even know who. Like, it was when the Sixers traded Charles Barkley. They didn't get anything in return. He's an MVP. Charles Barkley's like a first-bout Hall of Famer, and they didn't get anything in return. It's hard to trade.
Charles could still play.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He took the Suns almost won a title. They just couldn't beat Jordan.
This is just, we're talking about Josh Harris's involvement. If you're going to try to trade Embiid, what owner is going to go, like, this isn't just, oh yeah, my basketball guy has this. It's a normal basketball trade. We're talking about 250 to 300 million. The owner is involved in going, what do I look stupid? Like, what? You're trying to dump him because you don't want to pay this because it's pointless. Oh yeah, let me, and you want something back too. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah, let me just give you my franchise.
Yeah.
Let me just give you my franchise. Yeah, like what? Who would he? That's the reason he's going to be a Sixer, is because no one is dumb enough to get involved in this situation.
There actually are some dumb owners out there that might do it. So that's why you have to explore it. But the odds are he's going to be back. All right, from our super chat, Chris Jacobs. Shout out to Chris Jacobs. He says he has a degenerative knee issue, same as Kawhi. They should have traded him 4 years ago. A GM's job is to be forward-thinking. Should have seen this coming. Not about 4 years ago, but it's a reason enough to where you should question the extension. For sure. That's absolutely legitimate. All right, coming up, we have, so that's all that, I can't take any more Daryl Morey, Joel Embiid 76er conversation. However, check this out. And this is just because the Eagles tweeted it out that I'm even going to speak about this, because you knew who the opponents for the Eagles were going to be for 2025 season. But now that it's in front of me, it's like, all right, here's the Eagles' schedule, not the schedule, but their opponents for 2025. We'll look at that, and also what the Commanders did with Deebo Samuel, trading for him, and some other NFC East news as well. Later on, Phillies and Flyers updates in Block C of the program. That's coming up. Bill Mattson today, Philly with John Marks. Don't go anywhere. Glad Hair Restoration, just pop it up there. My hair looks good today. I got the freshie on Thursday. Pop it up there. That's a good before and after. I like that one because people commented my wife is beautiful, and she is beautiful. But more importantly, these aren't new pictures, ladies and gentlemen. You say, well, why do I want to see a before picture of you from 10 years ago? Because the picture on the left was taken shortly before that. Look at the difference. Look at the left, look at the right. Look at that coverage, man. That's unbelievable. Look how darker my hair was too. Jesus. But like, that's the point. Look at the after pictures. That could be you. If your hairline looks like that or worse, before and after, and you can cut those pictures because now look at it, however many years later. Tremendous. I'm borderlining being an old man here. I'm very much in my middle age, and the hair's looking great. That's Glad Hair Restoration. If you're worried about your hair, you're like, my hair sucks. There's options out there that just aren't restoration, right? Innovation. In 2025, there's a lot of innovative ways to reduce or slow your hair loss, right? So maybe you're not at the restoration level yet. You just want to slow it down. Bam. Glad Hair has something for you. GladHairMM.com is the website. More of my before and after pictures, everything you need to kind of get more information on it. Or you want to call their office and speak to their hair team. 610-980-4000. 610-980-4000. GladHairMM.com. All right. Yeah, I brought my shades today in case it was sunny on the way home. But I'm going to have to steal these Shady Rays here because I'll see Bill Matz when he's on Broad Street Hockey wearing the Shady Rays. But Tyler is our promotional spokesman.
Yeah, you know I'm in on Shady Rays. There's a reason that I'm in on Shady Rays. First of all, they look great. Just you can see them on John's face right now. I think that the The lenses, the different types of lenses. You can get your polarized lenses. That's for me. My eyes suck. I need those kind of sunglasses. But you can get them in a million different styles, too. You can get them in the kind that John's wearing, more traditional sunglass look. You can get them in the sleeker, sportier look. You can get them in aviators. And I know that the season's starting to come to an end, but you can still have time if you want to get out skiing and snowboarding. You can get your ski and snowboard goggles from Shady Rays as well, and they are the best protection in all of eyewear, especially when you're dealing with the snow and glare and things like that. You don't want windburn on your face. Shady Rays has you covered with all of that. And the best thing about Shady Rays to me is that they offer an incredible replacement guarantee. You break, you lose, you bust your pair, they're going to replace your pair guaranteed. And if you don't like the pair that you buy online, you have up to 30 days to return them or exchange them worry-free. So maybe you get the pair that you thought you liked online, didn't feel as good and more, maybe as comfortable on your face as you thought. Just go back to Shady Rays, get yourself a different pair or exchange the pair and find out the pair that works best for you. I've been a Shady Rays customer now for 3 or 4 years, and I switched over from another company because the options are limitless. So head on over to shadyrays.com, use that promo code PHLY, and you will get 35% off a pair of polarized sunglasses. And try for yourself why the shades that are rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
Yeah, Shady Rays. This Wawa coffee is colder than the energy drink that I took out of the refrigerated case. Honest to God, man, it couldn't be any colder. This damn thing. What I like working from the home studio is that you get the hottest cup of coffee. You know, I found a Starbucks right down the street from us here, Bill, and I grabbed it before I came in, and it was still relatively warm. You know, Starbucks coffee, if you pour that on your genitals, you'll burn them like they did with McDonald's. Do you remember that? You might be a little young. Some idiot was driving with McDonald's coffee between their legs after they got it from the drive-thru, and it spilled, and it burned them. It burned the sack. I don't know if it was a man or a woman, but yeah.
The extreme, like the scalding hot coffee. That's why I only drink iced coffee, John.
You're worried about burning your balls.
Yeah, you gotta take every precaution.
Oh man, you do. Well, I'll never have to worry about that with. And it's delicious, by the way. I'm not trying to rip Wawa. All right, there we go. So, and let's start off. Fit Dad CEO, my guy. All right, so let's start off with his super chat right here. And it's regarding the Deebo Samuel trade. And by the way, like I actually thought this was going to happen. It was a matter of what compensation they were going to have to give up. And because there was talk they were going to have to release him. Because the problem isn't that Deebo's not a good player. He's still a good player. He's not a Pro Bowl player. He's still a good player. But he's owed $21.7 million or whatever it is next year. And no team wants to bring that on except for a team with a lot of salary and a lot of need. And the Commanders are that team. So Fit Dad CEO says, this Deebo trade hasn't moved the needle for me at all. He's out of shape, fumbles often. I love the hypocrisy in the league, though. Hurts can't have talent around him, but when others get talent, there's no questions. Agreed. Oh, the Hurts double standard's unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, even after he wins a Super Bowl, people still don't want to give him credit. It's crazy. But yes,
winning is
good.
Winning is the ultimate indicator for every quarterback except Jalen Hurts, for whom it does not count. First downs and touchdowns are bad. And he's supposed to stand in the pocket, throw for 5,000 yards. And listen, if he's Justin Herbert and never wins a playoff game, that still makes him a borderline Hall of Famer. Like that's just what people want. It is absolutely insane, but the Deebo move is good for the Commanders. It's a nice state. It's absolutely worth a shot. I just don't know what he has in the tank. He's almost 30 years old, hasn't had 1,000 yards from scrimmage in a couple of years, not 1,000-yard receiver in like 4 seasons. He's a nice player. Commanders need help. It's worth a shot, but I don't see how it makes them the favorites in the East or anything.
Well, it definitely doesn't make them the favorites. I don't see how anybody can be a favorite over the Eagles. But so he's making a lot of money. Right. The only way Deebo Samuel is making $21.7 million a year is if someone trades for him. But the Washington also had to agree, hey, we're going to take the contract. So they're paying him $21.7, which Deebo is perfectly fine with because he was at risk of being cut if they couldn't work out a trade. So you get him for a 5th-round draft pick. It's good for Washington because they had the cap space. They're getting a player that makes them better for this year. So let's just take a look at Washington's. We're just going to do their skill guys. Jayden Daniels is a stud. I don't want to get in the argument of would I rather have him or Jalen Hurts or whatever. Jayden Daniels is a stud. Jalen Hurts is a stud. Like, what do you mean? They're both really good quarterbacks, all right? Now you have McLaurin, you have Deebo, and you have De'Ami Brown. End of the season, De'Ami Brown was one of their better players, man. He looked really good. There's 3 receivers: Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler as their running backs. I think Eckler's back again this year. And then Zach Ertz is unsigned, but I'd be shocked if he didn't re-sign with Washington. He's at the end of his career, but he's also still very good. Zach Ertz is still a productive player. Their offensive line isn't nearly as good as the Eagles' offensive line. That's a really good team, man. As long as the quarterback continues to play well and there's not – and here's the other thing. Year to year, defensive coordinators say, like, hey, listen, I'm gonna spend all offseason. Like, Vic Fangio hasn't slept in a week because he's trying to figure out how to solve Jayden Daniels because he knows he's going to play him twice a year. There'll be a move to make that's made to try to stop him or to slow him down. And I think they did that in towards the middle of the season or a little bit after the middle of the season anyway. But he's still a dynamic player. So, Bill, I think this puts him very much, the Commanders very much in the top 4 of the NFC this year, maybe even top 3 behind the Eagles and the Lions. But, yeah, he's really good. So, Eckler is signed. Thank you, Tyler. He is signed.
Yeah, I would definitely say the Commanders are top 4, top 5. I would absolutely put them up there. We still got to see how the draft, free agency, and everything goes. But listen, they really came on through last season. And, yeah, Eagles dropped 55 on them. That was just – it was a men against boys kind of we are not losing this game situation. But that's a learning experience for the Commanders. I expect them to be at least as good, if not better, and they're going to keep adding. They have a good team. They have a damn good team. I'm just not all that worried about it.
Yeah, no, the Eagles just won the Super Bowl. I'm not doing that. I don't work on sports radio anymore, Bill, so I don't have to pretend that the Commanders are going to beat the Eagles this year. However, I will say this. It's been a little bit of time since there's been a back-to-back NFC East winner. 2004. We're going on every year. It's like, well, this will be the year it ends, and it never ends. It never ends.
The Giants will come out and win the division or something this year, John. No, there's as good a chance of it happening this year as it's been in a while, but it is just kind of one of those oddities that
weird, man.
You know, the Eagles were in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago and couldn't repeat. They win the Super Bowl back in 2017 and don't win the division in 2018. It is an odd thing that seems to keep happening.
It's odd. All right, so Eagles in a second. The sources are telling somebody out of Dallas that the Cowboys and Micah Parsons are starting contract discussions on an extension. Parsons is the final year of his contract, making $24 million this year. This is so Cowboys that they're just starting contract extension, and he's going to take up $24 million on the cap. Hey, if you know you're going to pay Micah Parsons, so the Cowboys going to pay Micah Parsons, Bill Matz?
Yes,
they're going to pay him, just like they paid Dak, just like they paid CeeDee Lamb. You know what? Just like they paid Ezekiel Elliott. You know what they do? They draw it out so they screw themselves in the cap. Because if you sign them right now, because you know if you're going to sign a player or not, they just get more expensive. They don't get less expensive by making them wait. So they pay more money and they screw themselves with these cap numbers because Jerry doesn't want to pay anything up front. And Jerry wants to play it out for fantasy purposes. So it's like a reality TV type thing. So Parsons is going to get re-signed by the Cowboys. Is anybody going to be surprised when he doesn't show up to something, like he doesn't show up to mini camp, or he's sitting out of training camp because he doesn't have the new contract? This is the Cowboys way. They're doing it again this year, and it's really fun to watch.
It really is. At this point, they're not a football team. They are an entertainment entity. Like, that's it. They are a reality show. They exist so that First Take can continue to exist. Like, that's what the Cowboys are. They are, oh man, there's really not much going on. You know, like Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be done soon. The NFL, we don't really have, the Cowboys, they have someone to resign. So here's 2 months of content. Like, that's just what they are. It's always going to be, especially for the market setting deals. Those are the best ones. Oh, yeah, let's just wait because the price might go down. Like, what are you hoping for? The guy gets hurt? Like, you do it as soon as humanly possible.
Well, Dak's leg snapped in half on the field, and he still got a contract extension that offseason. So his price didn't go, or a contract this offseason. His price didn't go down. All right, so last thing here. Oh, and by the way, the one of the guys for the Odyssey station down in Dallas called the Cowboys a radio bit. And they really are. It's a radio bit where the audience knows it's a bit, the hosts know it's a bit, but like people still get mad. The Cowboys are doing a radio bit with their team for the last however many years, and it's very entertaining. I enjoy it.
They are the Whack Pack. It's perfect.
Who would Jerry Jones be at the Howard Stern Whack Pack? Beetlejuice?
215.
Yeah. All right. So last thing here, we got about 4 minutes on this. So Tyler was pushing to do give me a win, give me a loss, but we can't do that just yet because the schedule's not out, right? But we do know the opponents, which we should have known anyway. But for whatever reason, the Eagles tweeted it out. So I'm like, oh, this is interesting. So we know home and away, we know who the Eagles are playing because the divisions are twice a year. So I'm going to leave the Cowboys and Washington, a division team, out of it. There it is right there. All right. So home, you have is that the Bears? I can't even see that. Lions, Broncos, Rams, Raiders, Bears. All right. So the Lions, that's a good game. That'll be a good game. That is the Broncos, Rams, Raiders. So
yeah,
a couple of tough games, but the Eagles are the best team in football. You're not going to look at anything and be like, damn, I'm scared of that one. But you'd much rather have the Rams, even though they just beat them on the road. You'd much rather have the Lions at home than on the road. Now, Bill, the away teams, this is where things get interesting. All right. The Buccaneers away. Why do we always play them away?
Have they ever come here since the opening of the link?
That was the last time, yes.
It's only ever in Tampa.
And that's the worst. I'm telling you, that's the worst place to go see a game. Because those hicks down there that are all methed up at the game are the worst, dude. I had a guy try to fight me for no reason. The season after the Super Bowl, that they won the Super Bowl, Deshaun ended up going nuts that day for the Bucks. But I'm just waiting in line, and some guy's like, "Flipping Eagle fan!" I'm like, geez, I'm with my wife, waiting to get a water. It was so hot, I couldn't drink. Anybody that was drinking that day, you really wanted to get messed up at a game. It was 100 degrees, it's way too hot. Yeah. So, but yeah, the Bucks for whatever reason, it's always in Tampa Bay, Green Bay, Kansas City, the Chargers, the Vikings. And that last one's the Bills. Holy hell. That is a gauntlet, Bill Matz. That is a gauntlet.
Quite the road schedule. A lot of tough places to go. Obviously, just
all playoff teams.
The house of horrors that is Tampa Bay, no matter how good they are. It's just tough for the Eagles there. Green Bay, tough to go. KC. At least, the Chargers. That's a nice little trip for all of us. Go out to LA. That's a nice one.
That's a home game. You're right.
Yeah, and then Buffalo, obviously tough place to go. I'm sure that'll be in December because why wouldn't it be?
Right.
And it's a tough schedule. It definitely is. That's a first place schedule right there.
Yeah, it is. It's when you look at that, and a lot of times, we do this with the the schedule. It's all right, the third game of a 3-game road trip, is probably going to be a little more difficult, or you play on a Monday night, you have a short week, and there's trap games, there's look ahead games or whatever. Not knowing any of those things right now, this is not an easy schedule. But the Eagles also are just won the Super Bowl, so it's hard to look at any schedule you can put out there and be worried about it.
No, you look oh man, it's tough to go to Kansas City. Well, we just beat that team. That is the team that we just put the belt to the ass in the Super Bowl. Now that's a hell of a revenge game at home for them. But it's hard to be worried right now. Even you look at it and go, yeah, man, that's a tough schedule. But no, that's why they're the best team in the league. Of course, it's a tough schedule.
We'll just fire Sirianni if they struggle in some of those games. It'll be
fun. Obviously he's gone before the bye, man. We're getting Belichick. We're getting Belichick out of Carolina before that season even kicks off.
Buyout goes down. Tyler, you have some information on the Eagles and the Buccaneers?
You guys aren't entirely wrong in the fact that it feels like every time they play the Bucs, it's in Tampa. So the Eagles haven't hosted the Bucs in Tampa, or they haven't hosted the Bucs since 2021. That's a 4-game stretch. Twice have been in the playoffs, obviously. So the Bucs have been the home team in 24 and in 22, or in January of 22, the 21 season. But they have played the Bucs 12 times since the link opened up in 2003, including the home opener at the link in 2003. They've had 4 home games. They've played in Tampa 8 times since 2003. They have had 4 home games in that stretch.
That doesn't seem possible. Like, isn't the schedule supposed to, like, they have this like pre-planned schedule years ahead of time. You play certain divisions and certain teams, and somehow it's like that's one of the extra games, and it's always somehow on the road.
It's weird circumstance. Like this year, the top team in the NFC East plays whatever team in the South, and it just happens to match up. Yeah, but like I very vaguely remember any home games against Tampa. It always seems like it's something, and it's annoying going down there too. And that team matches up well against the Eagles. They are not afraid of the Eagles, so that's always a tough game.
And it's always something weird. Like that, like 60-yard field goal after that huge comeback when McNabb threw up. It's always something weird that goes on in that Tampa game. Like, yeah, it's a swamp. Let's kick a 60-yard field goal, and they hit it somehow as time expires. That makes sense. It's that's the worst. They go to KC and they go to Buffalo. That's the game that has me, on March 3rd, most worried.
Going to be as many primetime games as they can have is the number of primetime games they're going to have. So get ready for some late nights and some early mornings for this Eagle season. All right, coming up, not only do we have a Phillies report because Tyler Zulli, our PHLY Phillies guy, is here, but I mean, Jesus Christ, Bill Matz from Broad Street Hockey. Trade deadline's coming up. Big win by the Flyers over the weekend. A big home stretch coming up here. Can the Flyers make a charge for the playoffs? That's coming up right after this. Philly. 2-2. Back after this. All right, Rothman Orthopedics. All right, it's well documented my injuries that I've had on this show that sent me to Rothman Orthopedics. All right, and actually many years ago, and I don't even know if I went to Rothman for this, but I broke my finger at the PIP joint. I was running a route in my outside of my apartment, and my buddy threw it way behind me, and I went to try to knock it down so it wasn't intercepted. Bam! Broke it and dislocated at the PIP joint. So that's why you would go to Rothman. Broken bones, knee surgery, hip replacement, all that stuff. But anything you need for your orthopedic needs is why you want to go to Rothman, right? And if you're dealing with an injury, maybe it's from sports. Maybe it's just like, you're getting old. My wife has a bad back. I had a bad shoulder. You don't have to live in pain for the rest of your life. Rothman Orthopedics. They're specializing in orthopedics and you. So if you're like 6, 7 on the pain scale, you don't have to live with it. After you play golf, after you're active, you go running, you work out, you're like, I can't really do this anymore because I'm in too much pain. Go to Rothman. They specialize in this kind of stuff. It took me one appointment, and I waited a year hoping my shoulder was going to get better. It took one appointment. Pretty much, it was very easy. You have a frozen shoulder. Here's a physical therapy script. If it's not better in 6 weeks, we'll reevaluate. Oh, it was better in 6 weeks. I never went in there again. RothmanOrtho.com/PHLY to learn more and to make an appointment today. That's RothmanOrtho.com/PHLY. All right, so let's talk about Parx Casino, my casino choice. And listen, I love going on the BetParx app for all of what I do with sports betting and things like that. You can also live dealer blackjack, roulette. He likes the slots on there as well. But listen, action, entertainment, excitement, concerts, comedy, MMA, boxing at the state-of-the-art Excite Center. If you haven't been up there at Parx Casino, man, it's a great venue, great shows, all of that. Parx Casino, this is how you win. Pennsylvania's #1 casino. So tickets are on sale for these headliners. This is coming up Friday night. Scotty McCreery from American Idol. How about that? And I Maniac Malloy, I had said, hey, can you give me tickets for Michael Carbonero? That's on Saturday, March 8th. My daughter's in a school play on Saturday, so I can't make it. But that's March 8th. He's amazing. Country superstar Lee Brice, March 22nd. Larry the Cable Guy, May 16th. Trevor Wallace on June 27th. Comedian Mark Normand on July 12th. And remember, make it a date night, right? Dinner and drinks before the show. ParxCasino.com to buy tickets for all the shows. Parx Casino, this is how you win. You must be 21. Gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. There you go. All right, we are back. Bill Matz from Broad Street Hockey with his Macho Man Randy Savage t-shirt on.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh yeah. I saw Lex Luger. I don't know if there's a new clip or an old clip, but he was talking about how he felt responsible for Miss Elizabeth's death because she fell into the drug problem that Lex Luger had over the weekend.
Yeah. He's been making the rounds. He's been doing DDP yoga. He's in really bad shape, and I think they got him walking again. And it was like pretty big triumph for Lex Luger. But yeah, the Miss Elizabeth situation was always that was a bummer. That was a real bummer.
Poor Miss Elizabeth. All right. Well, listen, we're going to start. Tyler, get ready for the Phillies segment coming up here. But without further ado, Bill Matz from Broad Street Hockey joins us as the Flyers are the big win on Saturday night over the Jets. Now, they come home for 5 games, but the trade deadline is coming up. And I saw a picture of the Last Supper that was put out on Twitter. Could that have been the Last Supper of the team, Bill? Do you expect some moves from the Flyers?
Yeah, I do. I am expecting some moves. I do think this could finally be the year that the Flyers trade Scott Lawton, just based on some comments that have been made. I think, last year, the year before that, he was kind of told, Scott was, that, listen, if someone comes and blows us away, and by that we mean a first-round pick plus, we're trading you, but otherwise we think there's value in what you bring on and off the ice. We want you to be here. We know you want to be here. I don't get the sense, Charlie O'Connor has said this a few times on our show, just don't get the sense he has that reassurance this year. And when you heard John Tortorella talk a few days ago, they bring up Rasmus Ristolainen, and he's immediately defensive. Who's trading him? Why? As soon as we trade him, we're going to miss him. And then he's asked about Scott Lawton, and he goes, listen, everyone loves Scotty, but you can't fall in love with guys. You can't overvalue your own dudes. And that's 2 very different messages about 2 guys in the same press conference, where you just have to go, yeah, I can see this being the year that Lawton is actually traded, but they're going to hold to their price. I don't see them moving him unless they get a high-level prospect or a first-round pick.
As far as for the rest of this season, now Flyers are 4 points from that second 6 points from that second wild card. Where's your head headed down the stretch here? Do you feel good about their chances or no?
They are the entire East outside of the Buffalo Sabres, basically, and they're working their way back in it. There's no one actually out. They have a chance, and they've been playing some really good hockey lately, but there's just so many teams involved. They have to jump 4 teams just to be the team right outside the wild card right now. I just think there's too many other teams that are better than them, whether it's Detroit, who's in the spot, Ottawa, that's right there, the Rangers and Bruins. I mean, they've had all year to get it together, and they just haven't. But it's going to take 2 weeks for them, and they're right where they're supposed to be. So I just don't see it quite coming together for the Flyers in a playoff push this year.
And I think you would feel differently but do they have more? How many do they have in a row here at home? 7?
It's 7 straight at home. Yeah.
Oh my God. So you would feel a lot differently about that if they could go on a run right here. Calgary, Winnipeg, Seattle, New Jersey, Ottawa, Tampa, Carolina.
And it's a 7-game homestand. They're not going to have to travel. But that's mostly playoff teams right there. That is a whole lot of teams that you would just go in. You open up your Bet Parks app there, Johnny, and there's a plus sign next to the Flyers money line. They are not going to be favored in most of those games. And listen, they've won. They just beat the Jets. The Jets are by record the best team in hockey. Matvei Mishkov just deked the best goalie in hockey out of his pads in the shootout. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but I would be very surprised if they're able to rattle a few more off here.
So and there's still a lot of hockey to play, but without the benefit of knowing how the season ends, as you look at it right now, more good than bad this year. Will you look at this if they don't make the playoffs? Will you look at this as a productive year for the Flyers?
I will. There's still 21 so games left, but getting Matvei Mishkov over here, he's a Flyer. We get to see it. He's going to be a Calder finalist in all likelihood. That right there, that's the whole point of the season, and it went well. I've seen enough to know he's going to be really freaking good. You look at some of the young guys, the Noah Cates line with Bobby Brink and Tyson Forster. They've taken steps. They're looking good. We've been waiting all year for an Owen Tippett hot streak. He's on it right now. It's happening. we're seeing Jamie Drysdale, the return for the Cutter Gauthier trade. He's made strides lately. You are seeing some of the young players show the progress of learning under John Tortorella for a few years.
Yeah, and with the Zamboner like me, I look at Mitchkoff and I'm like, oh, well, you know, he's a stud. The kid's a stud, and he's so young. Like, this is great. It actually reminds me of Carson Wentz in 2016. So if you remember, they started off hot, and right away, I think it was after they beat the Steelers, who were good, and Wentz looked amazing. And I just remember saying, no matter what else happens the rest of the season, because they sucked after that, but it was like, you got a quarterback, and you felt good about it. Now, it was short-lived, the Carson Wentz era in Philadelphia and him being a good quarterback, but still you won the Super Bowl the next year. All right, so what's the schedule with Phillies Report coming up? What's the schedule with Broad Street Hockey? When can we watch your Flyers coverage this week, Bill?
Yeah, our PHLY Flyers show, we're going to be doing pre- and post games all week. There's no 4 o'clock shows this week. It's a crazy schedule right now. They have back-to-back Saturday and Sunday, so we are off today and Wednesday, and it's just going to be all game coverage. They have a ton of games this month. It's like 16 games in 28 days, I think they play. It's pretty wild. So we're going to be busy with pre and post games all month.
Yeah, there's 7 games between now and March 15th. So that's 13 days.
It's more than one every other day. It's a jam-packed schedule in March.
All right. Well, I don't know who else was paying attention to what the Phillies were doing over the weekend. I know I was. I love you. Are you going down? Are you down spring training again this year? Are you going down with Ava?
No, I am. We are not making the. We're not making the trip this year. We are Florida tapped out, John.
Is that right? Well, it is.
It's always fun, but you get over it at a certain point.
Well, once you do it a couple times now, I enjoy going down for free every year. But if I was having to pay my own way, I don't necessarily know if I want to do it every year. But I love watching spring training baseball. I love listening to it. Tyler Zulli, PHLY Phillies. He's got a live show today.
We do.
And he does his video on demand on Tuesdays and Thursdays. What's the latest on the Phillies there, Tyler?
Yeah, guys, I hope you're prepared for Taijuan Walker to be on the 26-man roster. Rob Thompson adores him. It's very, very clear. He's made that pretty publicly known, and they really are pumping up. Man, he hit 93 yesterday because the Phillies had a split squad game yesterday. So half the team obviously played Baltimore, half the team was playing against Toronto and Dunedin, and they made it a point to mention Taijuan Walker in Dunedin against the Blue Jays. Now, don't ask about how his command was, but they really have made it a point to mention that his velocity looks good and he looks sharp, and sharp is, I think, a relative term for him. But I think that's the big takeaway for me this weekend is don't be shocked, guys, if Taijuan Walker, because of A, the fact that Rob Thompson loves him, and B, the monetary investment, of course, is on the opening day roster as the long man, mop-up guy, whatever you want to call him. I think Taijuan Walker's going to make the team.
Yeah, I mean, just from watching it, you notice that his stuff wasn't as flat. You mentioned his command, which wasn't great, but like he just had more life on the fastballs. Like his four-seam fastballs were in the neighborhood of 93, almost 94, down to 92. And then his sinkers were 93, 92, and 93. So like I look at it and I'm like, all right, is that gun? Did they juice the gun up? Did Dombrowski wink at the guy and he turned the dial up to make it look like he had more velocity? Because here's the reality of it, that he'll be on this roster if they can't find anybody to trade for him. Because they're not going to cut him because he's starting rotation depth. And you know what? He could be good. He could be good this year. Who knows? He was good a couple years ago. But can they get him to a point with propaganda, and he looks good, that a team that needs a starter says, hey, listen, you're going to have to give us some money in return, but we're willing to eat half of the contract or something like that. So, like, he can pitch his way off of the roster. He can pitch his way on the roster. And I think the way he pitches his way on the roster is if he's not very good or he's just like, Because they ain't going to cut him. He would have to be so bad that they'd be like, all right, he's toxic to have around. And he's not doing that. He came into camp in shape. Like, his stuff does look better. So I think the best chance of happening is Taijuan Walker is the long man who ends up starting at some point this season because of injury and things like that.
You always need rotation depth, I guess. It's just, I would rather watch anybody else. It's just fatigue at this point with Taijuan Walker, but it's the business side of this thing is he's gonna be on the roster unless he's good enough for somebody to take him. That's it. Like, the better he pitches, the better chance there is of him not being around, which is funny. But
True.
You're just going to have to, it's just one of those things you have to deal with. And having a $20 million, middle reliever, I guess that's the luxury of being a major market team, I suppose.
Yeah, I think the best thing for the Phillies over the next 3 weeks is that he pitches his best baseball ever in spring training. And I think, John, you bring up a potential trade. I think the realization is the more money the Phillies are willing to eat, A, more likely a trade is facilitated, and B, the better return you're going to get. Because, like, if they say, hey, we'll eat half, well, then a team may be willing to move a 20th prospect, whereas if they say we'll eat a quarter, you might get a player to be named later type of, you know what I'm saying? The return becomes less the less money that you're willing to eat. So if this team does say, hey, it's sunk costs, we're paying the guy anyway, but instead of us paying $18 million a year, let's play $10 million a year. And let another team eat the last 8, then I think you're starting to talk about maybe we could get some kind of player return more than, whatever you're willing to give us.
I mean, honestly, I kind of want him on the roster for rotation depth, right? Like, if the Phillies can trade him and get rid of half that salary, the Phillies are going to trade him and get rid of half that salary. That's they spend a ton of money. And like that's perfectly fine. But if he's on the roster, I actually don't feel bad about that. One other thing here with the Phillies, Kyle Schwarber, according to Matt Gelb of The Athletic, they've had broad conversations about a new deal. He's entering the final year of a 4-year, $72 million contract. Gelb said, quote, nothing is perceived as imminent ahead of the Phillies' March 27th opener. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, here's what I worry about with players in extending them. And I don't know if it'd be like a 3-year extension or a 2-year extension or whatever. And that obviously matters. But like, Schwarber to me is a guy, he's already a DH. And like, he is what he is. He's a power guy. He's going to walk a lot. He's, like some years he may bat 250 and then the next year he might bat 195. But he's going to hit 35 plus home runs. So as long as the price isn't ridiculous, I mean, listen, Kyle Schwarber's been one of the best players on this team for a while, and I think he can continue that for the next couple of years. So I like the idea of them extending Kyle Schwarber into the future.
Yeah, it's no obvious replacement for him coming anytime soon. So I don't see. You got to think about the money a little bit. Do you want to go another 20 mil for him? Do you want to go 3-4 years? I don't think so, but shorter term, maybe a little less money. It could be, you could do a lot worse than Kyle Schwarber.
3 for 75. Tyler, does that seem like or is he, because listen, he's been a home run leader, pretty much one of the home run leaders pretty much every year he's been here in Philly. And his power is unmistakable, but he's also a DH, right?
Yeah,
so
last year was the fewest home runs he's hit as a Philly in his 3 years, and he hit 38. I think that the Phillies have been a team over the last half a decade that have proven they would rather give out more years than more money in a particular year. And I think that's specifically true when you're up against the tax threshold the way that they are. I think in Schwarber's case, they may, and they did it with Wheeler too, they may reverse that a little bit because they say, hey, smaller sample size is probably best for both parties in terms of years, but we will up the money value. Because we value you and we want you back, but it doesn't make sense for us to go 4 or 5 years, whereas maybe a 3-year deal is probably where we'd like to sit, but we will give you an additional $2-3 million, $4 million a year compared to what we would have given you if you were, 4 years younger.
Yeah, I'm not going 4-year contract extension. Could I go 3? 2 with a vesting option or something like that? Yeah, I could. I mean, at this point, the team's pot committed. Right? Like they're trying to win. The window is now and it's next year, and Dave Dombrowski will leave when the window is closed.
Dave Dombrowski will leave when Nashville gets an organization.
Right, exactly. Like, this is short-lived. Like, it'll get ugly. You're going to have to then you're rebuilding with Bryce Harper, and we'll be having the conversation of, by the way, shout out to everybody watching on TV. Get over to allphly.com to watch the rest of the show. We'll be having the conversation, Bill, of should you trade Bryce Harper now? He's the team's rebuilding. He's this age. Do you trade him to a team that's ready to contend? To where Bryce is probably no, I'm cool with staying here. He's got the friggin' fanatic tattoo on his forearm.
Yeah, that's like if you started rooting for a new football team, Johnny. Like once you get the tattoo, you're committed. That's just the way it is. I don't see how you could possibly do that. Kyle Schwarber also younger than I thought. He turns 32 in like 2 days.
Yeah.
I thought he was like 34. So all right, yeah, I could go 2-3 years there. That's
cool.
Bro,
he'll be Matt Stairs when he's 37, except probably a better player. You know what I mean? It's just like you bring him up. He'll play for a contender in his last 2 years, being a part-time DH and being a bat off the bench, looking to crush a ball when he sees a right-hander that's throwing fastballs, man. Schwarber, what a great signing Schwarber's been.
Oh, yeah. No, I think that's worked out as well as you could possibly have hoped for it. I mean, 47, 46, 38 home runs. That's hard to come up with a free agent signing that's done better than Kyle Schwarber has in his 3 years here.
Yeah, Friday, guys, I did because of the anniversary of Harper signing and did the top 5 free agents and signings in Phillies history. Kyle Schwarber made the list. He was number 5 for me. I think that, people immediately on the surface, they look at like you brought up, 240 average, 196 the 1 year. And the average is concerning at times, there's no question. But the catalyst that he is, the offensive plus that he brings, I think has been invaluable for this team. And granted, now the Phillies haven't had a ton of like amazing free agent signings prior to the turn of the 2000s with Jim Thome, but to me, he brings an invaluable asset to this team, and that's a lot of catalyst. It's a good leadership. He's a great leader from what they say. Oh, yeah. I think he's just a really, really important piece to this lineup, no matter where he ends up hitting.
All right, what do you got going on the show today there, Tyler Zulli, PHLY
Yeah,
Phillies?
So we're going to talk about so Christopher Sanchez was the other headline yesterday, 97, 98 consistently. We're going to talk about Christopher Sanchez a little bit. I think Sanchez may be ready to take the leap into like stardom. Last year he was really, really good, really matured as a pitcher. I think you're on the cusp of a guy who's ready to take the leap into like being a true number 2, top of the line rotational piece.
Yep.
And so we'll talk about him today, go around the league a little bit more, do our Monday bold predictions. But yeah, we'll try to fit that all in a half an hour.
All right. Bill, you're live at 4 o'clock today, or you're not live at 4 o'clock today because you got pre and post.
We have pre and post tomorrow, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. So I believe we have Friday, a 4 o'clock show is the only one this week.
Wow. All right. We'll tune in for that. Bill, I mean, you've been on the show before, but you haven't co-hosted before, and I'd say it was a success. Excellent job, my friend.
Oh, thank you, Johnny. Thank you.
All right. Everybody, shout out. Make sure you're subscribing to PHLY on YouTube. Just smash that subscribe button, comment, like, all that good stuff. That gets us in your algorithm.
You saw it Saturday night. It was bizarre, right?
That gets us in your algorithm.
There is no Jimmy
and then you're
Butler
forced to watch us because we're constantly popping up, and you have to watch all of our videos and everything else. Listen on audio podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. Just search Philly with John Marks, and you can listen at your convenience in the car, at home. I know I like to listen to my podcasts and my radio shows on demand while I do dishes and I do work around the house. So that is also an option. You don't always have to watch the video on YouTube. And, of course, we're available on Xfinity, Roku, and Samsung Plus as well if you want to watch it. All right, everybody, have a great one. We're back tomorrow. Check out Tyler today. Check out Bill tomorrow. Talk to you tomorrow at 8 o'clock. See you.
We all silly like the mayor.